Hello, everyone. Welcome to everyone who is on Zoom, to everyone who is there in person. Thank you for joining us today. I am Joy, and on behalf of 84,000, I'd like to wish everyone a very auspicious Trikor Tuchen. Today is the day we celebrate the fact that the Buddha not only attained enlightenment, but also chose to teach the Dharma. For today's event, we are offering interpretation in several languages: Chinese, French, German, Italian, Russian, Spanish, and Tibetan. So please click the globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen to select your preferred language. I'll just give everyone a few seconds to do that. All right. Today we are so honored to be celebrating Trikor Tuchen with Venerable Thubten Chodron. Venerable Thubten Chodron is an author, teacher, and the founder and abbess of Shravasti Abbey, which is a pioneering Tibetan Buddhist training monastery for Western nuns and monks in the United States. Ordained as a Tibetan Buddhist nun in 1977, she has studied extensively with His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Tensab Sergon Rinpoche, and other great Tibetan masters. She received full ordination as a bhikshuni in 1986. Venerable Chodron teaches worldwide and is known for her warm, practical, and humorous explanations of how to apply Buddhist teachings in daily life. She is also involved in prison outreach and interfaith dialogue. She has published many books on Buddhist philosophy and meditation, and is currently assisting His Holiness the Dalai Lama in the writing and publication of the Library of Wisdom and Compassion, a multi-volume series of teachings on the Buddhist path. So on this auspicious occasion of Trikor Tuchen, the celebration of the Buddha's teachings, we are so very fortunate to have Venerable Thubten Chodron here to share insights on the topic of creating our world, with close reference to the Rice Seedling Sūtra. Now, before we invite Venerable Chodron to start the teaching, let us all recite the aspiration prayer written for 84,000, translating the words of the Buddha. For those on Zoom, you will see the prayer on the screen, and please feel free to follow along. An aspiration prayer for 84,000. As peace, harmony, sanity, and the well-being of this earth and its inhabitants are now so endangered, may there never be a time when the world's media, school textbooks, and daily conversations stop using words like generosity, patience, and loving kindness, and when the meaning of such words is lost. As we fear the darkest hour of this dark age, may there never be a time when words like impermanence, anitya, unsatisfactoriness, dukkha, selflessness, anatman, dependent arising, vidya samutpada, illusion, maya, and emptiness, shunyata, cease to exist, and when their meaning is lost. May the endeavors of translators and editors plant the seed of the Dharma in all directions. May the efforts of the patrons and administrators nurture and strengthen the shoot of the Dharma at all times. May the noble aspirations of this endeavor maintain and propagate the precious Dharma far and wide. This prayer was composed by Brahma Pushpa in India, June 2020. Thank you, everyone, for reciting the aspiration prayer together. Now, without further ado, let us invite Venerable Chodron to begin the teachings. Thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. So thank you, Joy, for the invitation. And I also want to thank all the translators from so many different places, translating into so many different languages. So it's, for me, it's an honor to be able to talk on the day of the anniversary of the Buddha's giving the first teaching. And I was thinking, because Vesak day, which happened 7 weeks ago, is like the one that people really celebrate, that the Buddha attained awakening. And this one of turning the Dharma wheel isn't as celebrated as much. But I was thinking, actually this one in some ways should be the main one, because why did the Buddha attain awakening? It was to be able to benefit sentient beings. What is the best way that he benefits sentient beings? By giving Dharma teachings. And so this is the anniversary of the first teaching. So this is like the purpose of why the Buddha spent 3 countless great eons generating bodhicitta and meditating on emptiness and creating so much virtue. This is the reason why he did it. So it's really quite a very special day. So I thought to speak on the Rice Seedling Sutra, in part because Geshe Ashitapke has been teaching it to us based on a book he wrote called the Rice Seedling Sutra. And there's so much in this sutra. I mean, it's not a terribly long discourse, but there's so much in it. So I will do my best to kind of talk about some of it. Yeah, it's the kind of thing that you could actually talk about for years and years and years. There's so much to unpack. Okay, so I'll read a little bit from the sutra, give some, thoughts, share some thoughts on it. So it starts out, thus I have heard at one time, the Bhagawan was residing on Vulture's Peak Mountain in Rajgir with a large sangha of 1,250 bhikshus, and with a great many bodhisattva mahasattvas. At that time, Venerable Shariputra went to the place frequented by the bodhisattva mahasattva Maitreya, and after they had exchanged courtesies upon meeting each other, they both sat down on a flat rock. I would like to offer them cushions, but this happened a long time ago. So Venerable Shariputra then said to the Bodhisattva Mahasattva Maitreya, Maitreya, here today the Bhagawan, gazing at a rice seedling, spoke this aphorism to the bhikshus. Bhikshus, whoever sees dependent arising sees the Dharma. Whoever sees the Dharma sees the Buddha. Having said that, the Bhagawan fell silent. So that quote there is, the whole sutra is talking about that quote, okay? So then Shariputra continues to ask, Maitreya, what is the meaning of this aphorism spoken by the Sugata? What is dependent arising? What is the Dharma? What is the Buddha? How does one see the Dharma by seeing dependent arising? And how does one see the Buddha by seeing the Dharma? Okay, good question, huh? Now, we think when it says see the Buddha, you see the Buddha, you see dependent arising, we always see, okay, look, but I can't look at it with my eye. So maybe see means understand. And if I understand dependent arising, I understand the Dharma. How come? Yeah. And then if I see the Dharma, I will see the Buddha. Now, we here see the Buddha, what do we think? With our eyes. Like the Buddha's going to appear in front of us, and there he is, There's a story in the Pali Canon of one old monk who was dying, and he asked the Buddha to come and see him, and he said, I've never had a chance to see the Buddha, so thank you for coming to see me before I die. And the Buddha said, foolish monk, seeing the Buddha does not mean seeing the Buddha with your eyes. Yeah, seeing the Buddha means your realizations in here, when your realizations are the same as the Buddha's realizations. Okay, so we get, we're very physically oriented, and so, we think, oh yeah, the Buddha's going to appear in front of me. And we always ask, well, the Buddha has so many miraculous powers. Why doesn't he just appear and do his miraculous powers, and then everybody would have faith and become Buddhist? Well, okay, imagine in Times Square in New York. Yeah, the Buddha comes there and he's making displays of his magical powers. Yeah, are people going to worship him? Are they going to want to listen to the Dharma? Think about our present culture. What are they going to do? Okay, take out your camera and start videoing. I want a video of the Buddha to say, so I can show my friends I saw the Buddha. And call CNN, and call the New York Times. They're going to come here. They can do an interview and take pictures, and then Buddha in Times Square, isn't that wonderful? And he's doing miraculous powers. Yeah, that is not, maybe for a few people that might interest them in the Dharma, but for most people, it's just sensationalism. Yeah. It's just, something far out that I can say I saw, and magical power, wow. I think as Buddhists, our faith needs to be much deeper than that. If our faith is just based on magical powers and on impossible things, well, I don't know about you, but I grew up hearing about the Red Sea splitting so everybody could walk through. If that isn't a great magical power, what is? And then this burning bush that talked. Yeah? So if my faith was solely dependent on magical powers, where would I be? Yeah, probably sitting next to that bush, getting scorched, because it's not hot enough here. So, we have to look deeper than that. Yeah, the Buddha taught so that he taught us the methods to transform our own mind, and that's what this sutra is about. Okay, so the sutra explains dependent arising, first talking about the 12 links of dependent origination. Then it brings up the eightfold path of the Aryas and the relationship to inner and outer causes and conditions. And so most important in this sutra is how the understanding of dependent arising can free us from the 12 links of dependent origination. Okay, because the 12 links describe how we take rebirth again and again and again in samsara. And so we want to be free of that. Okay, so Maitreya explains, here's from the sutra, the phrase dependent arising means that something arises because something else already exists. Something is born because something else was already born. Okay, and then he goes into the 12 links. And I'm not going to go into the 12 links now because I think that the teachings on that are more easily available to people. So I want to talk about the dependent arising in another way. I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, but then the sutra continues. So first of all, what is dependent arising? Yeah, that something arises because something else already existed. Okay, something is born because something was already born. Okay, so it's talking about cause and effect. Yeah, and so how seeing the dependent arising helps you see the Dharma. So what is the Dharma? The Dharma is the eightfold path of the noble ones, meaning the Aryas. So right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Okay, and so the eightfold path of the Aryas, combined with the attainment of its results and nirvana, that is what the Bhagavan has called the Dharma. That's what Maitreya replied to Shariputra. Okay, so what is the Dharma referring here to? Yeah, if we unpack that, it's referring to the true cessations and the true paths. Okay, so those are in the mind stream of a Buddha, those are the final object of refuge. They're also the Dharma, the Buddha jewel. Okay, so we can think of the real Dharma that is our object of refuge. Yeah, is the true path, which consists primarily of the mind that understands emptiness, that realizes emptiness directly. And here, the subtle emptiness, not the gross kinds of emptiness, but the subtle meaning of emptiness, according to the Prasangika view. And then through practicing the true path, then one attains the various true cessations, starting at the path of seeing and through the path of meditation to the path of no more learning. And those true cessations are this is a very interesting one, are the emptiness of a mind that has fully eliminated a certain portion of the defilements. Yeah, in the mind stream of a Buddha, then this is the cessation, the emptiness that is the cessation of the mind that has removed all defilements. Okay, so so that is the Dharma, that's the refuge. But also, we talk about the Dharma in terms of the realized Dharma and the transmitted Dharma. So the realized Dharma is the true paths and the true cessations, okay, which are the last two of the four truths of the Aryas. And then also the transmitted Dharma. Okay, so the transmitted Dharma, that refers to not just the scriptures. We think scriptures, the text, the written things. The transmitted Dharma is the meaning of the words. Okay, so the Buddha here, and Maitreya also, they are transmitting the Dharma by speaking, and then by hearing it and thinking about it and meditating on it, then we're able to actualize the true paths and or realize the true path and actualize the true cessations. Okay, so why is it called dependent arising? Yeah. So here again from the Sutra. It is called dependent arising because it is causal and conditional. Okay. The Bhagavan concisely taught the characteristics of dependent arising as follows. Results come from their own specific conditions. Whether Tathagatas appear or not, this true nature of things will remain. It is the true nature. Suchness, unmistaken suchness, unchanging suchness, actuality and truth, unmistaken and unerring. Okay, so it's saying that whether the Buddhas appear and exist in our world, whether they teach the Dharma or not, the nature of things in samsara is dependent. The nature of things in nirvana is also dependent. Okay, the nature of all phenomena is they are all considered dependent arisings. Here the word arising doesn't necessarily mean produced. It means existent. Okay, we'll get to that in a minute. Okay, so it's interesting because here it's saying, results come from their own conditions, whether the Tathagatas exist or not. Yeah, so cause and effect functions in all realms of our life, in physics and biology and chemistry and so on. When we talk about karma, that is another system of cause and effect, that here the cause and effect isn't something material. It has to do with ethical conduct. Yeah, the causes that are created by our actions and the results that those produce. Okay. But that's one meaning of dependent arising. But then, in that quotation, another meaning was suchness, meaning emptiness, selflessness. So, what is the deeper meaning of dependent arising? That things are empty of having any inherent nature of themselves. Okay. So, now back to the sutra. So the sutra says, ignorance does not think I produce karmic formations. Those are the first 2 links of the 12 links. Okay. Nor do karmic formations think we are produced by ignorance. And so on through all of them. Okay. So we see there's a cause and the result comes naturally. Yeah, there isn't a creator, there isn't a divine manager of the universe who makes ignorance produce karmic formations, that makes karmic formations lead to consciousness. Okay, so if we look deeper, this is saying that cause and effect just functions. We don't need to assert a creator. Yeah. In fact, if you assert a creator, you run into many difficulties because what caused the creator? Yeah. Okay, which we won't get into right now. That's a whole other topic, but it's an important one to really go into because many of us have been brought up with the idea of a creator, and it's very easy to go back to that. It's very easy to think of the Buddha as like some omnipotent God, because if you were raised in a Judeo-Christian culture, that's what was put into your consciousness when you were little. So, to really think deeply that there doesn't need to be a divine creator for the universe to exist, yeah, or for everything to function. Okay, the sutra continues. Here, there is nothing whatsoever that transmigrates from this existence to the next. And yet, because there is no deficiency of requisite causes and conditions, the results of karma nonetheless manifest. It is like the appearance of the reflection of a face on the surface of a well-polished mirror. The face has not shifted onto the surface of the mirror, but because there is no deficiency of requisite causes and conditions, the face nonetheless appears there. Okay, so there is nothing whatsoever that transmigrates from this existence to the next. Now we go, what? What? We say somebody is reborn as this. There's got to be something that comes from this person, from the previous life to the next person. Yeah, to the next life. And what about the tulku system in Tibetan Buddhism? So-and-so dies, they're reborn as the incarnation of the previous life. So what's the sutra saying? There's nothing whatsoever. Yeah? When I see the incarnation of my teacher, I expect him to have the same personality as my teacher did. And I expect him to remember me, because he's just the same mind up and plunked into another body. Wrong. Okay? That way of thinking is assuming that there is a permanent soul, an Atman, something permanent, some essence that is really me. Yeah? Yeah? Do you feel like there's a real you inside? You don't really understand it, but there's a feeling, I'm here. I am here. I exist. Do you ever think I exist only because the causes and conditions for me existed? Chew on that one for a while. I exist only because the causes and conditions for me exist. Aside from causes and conditions, there is no permanent essence. No inherent essence, thing that is the essence of meanness, not meanness, me-ness, okay? We feel like there's something like that, don't we? Yeah? That's exactly what the Buddha was refuting when he taught selflessness, okay? That there's some permanent essence. Me, independent, autonomous, in control, yeah, with, my inherent personality doesn't exist. Okay, what's the analogy the Buddha gave? Okay, the reflection in a mirror. Yeah, when there's a reflection, yeah, when you look in the mirror in the morning, you check your hair and your makeup and, how you look. There's a face in the mirror. Yeah. Is that a human face? Is that a human face? Is that a human being? The face of a human being in the mirror? No, it's a reflection of a face. Okay, the reflection is not the face. Okay, if somebody hits the mirror, the person in the mirror, you don't say, ouch. Okay, well, maybe you do. The mirror breaks and hits you. But, the face is not, the face in the mirror is not the face of a human being. But all the causes are there. Yeah? If there's light in the room, there's the mirror, the human being is positioned in a certain way with respect to the mirror, then that reflection appears. But the face does not go to the mirror. When you look in the mirror, it's not like your face detached from the rest of you, and now it's in the mirror. Okay, so in the same way, when rebirth occurs, there's nothing in one life that picks up and goes and kerplunk into another body in another life. Okay, it's dependent arising. Yeah. Okay, but there's nothing you can identify that goes. So, when you think about this, then why do we expect the incarnations of our teacher to have the same personality as the previous one? They say that the 13th Dalai Lama and the 14th Dalai Lama, very different personalities. The 13th Dalai Lama was very stern, from what I understand, and the 14th Dalai Lama is quite jovial and relaxed, yeah? But what is it? There's a continuum, okay? So in a continuum, what you have is many moments of something, yeah? But each moment is the result of the previous moment, okay? So here's where the understanding of impermanence is quite important. His Holiness uses the example a lot of when talking about the difference between subtle impermanence and gross impermanence, that we see the sun rise. That's pretty gross. We see the sunrise, and then later we see the sunset. So that's gross. We can see that. Yeah, you build something and then it falls apart. That's gross impermanence. But for gross impermanence to occur, it means that every single nanosecond, yeah, and you cannot define the exact moment here, but every single, moment, things are changing. So the sun, from when it rises, every single moment, it's changing gradually to go across the sky. Well, actually, it's the earth that's turning that makes that happen, but, okay. So whether it's the earth turning or the sun moving, it's happening every single nanosecond. Yeah. And as a cumulative result of all those little moments that are too small for us to notice with our gross senses, then we have the gross impermanence, and we see the sunset in the evening. Okay, but it's moment by moment by moment this happens. Okay. So the sutra continues, likewise, that there is nobody at all who transmigrates from here after death and is born elsewhere. And yet, because there is no deficiency of requisite causes and conditions, the result of karma nonetheless manifests. And that is like how a fire ignites from the assemblage of its requisite causes and conditions, and not when deficient of its requisite causes and conditions. So there is nobody at all who transmigrates from this life to the next. Okay, now then our mind goes, that means when I die I'm not going to exist anymore, I'm terrified. No, it doesn't mean that. Yeah, remember there's this continuum, yeah, that transmigrates, but the continuum is not one solid, inherently existent thing. It's changing moment by moment by moment. Why is it changing? Because when the causes arise, the result comes. Then the causes, that result becomes the cause of the next moment. That moment of consciousness becomes the cause of the next moment of consciousness. Okay? So karma functions because of this. So karma means action. It's talking about our actions of body, speech, and mind. And here's where we get into ethical conduct and the importance of ethical conduct, and the importance of purifying our misdeeds that we've created in the past, and the importance of creating merit, okay? Because merit is just putting good causes and conditions in our mind, yeah? Negativity, misdeeds, put those causes and conditions in our mind. And so those causes and conditions, Well, the causes, the principal causes, the karma we create, when there are the proper conditions in the next life, then that karma ripens. Or at the moment of death, depending on what causes, what conditions are there, they spark the ripening of certain karmas, and then those karmas propel or throw another rebirth. Okay, and we say the person is reborn, but there's no person that is reborn. Okay, we say the person is reborn based on there being a continuum of consciousness, but there is no inherently existent person that is reborn. Okay, so here we get into differentiating conventional truths and ultimate truths. So when we say the person is reborn, it doesn't mean that, here's the person. Again, I remember I saw one movie some years ago, and they had the thing of the man in the family died, his consciousness picked up, moved over here, and went into the body of the family dog. Okay, it's not like that, okay? And it's not that the dog then later the consciousness comes and picks up and then goes into another human being. There's no solid person that transmigrates. Okay, there's simply causes and conditions that bring results. Okay, so and things are momentarily impermanent because they are dependent. Anything that is dependent does not function under its own power. It relies on something else to exist. It relies on something else, its causes, to change. Okay, so whenever we say dependent, it means that there's nothing permanent there that inherently is the object. So the same with karma. If we create virtue, it will produce happiness. It's not like we create a good cause and then we talk about karmic seeds. So it's not like, here's the karmic seed, some identifiable, unchanging thing that goes into my consciousness. The seed is also changing moment by moment. It's dependent. It was created by the action. Okay? The action we did in the case of a virtuous action, it creates the seed of a virtuous action, which when that meets proper conditions will ripen into a pleasant or happy result. And the same thing happens with when we act in destructive ways and harmful ways. It puts a seed in the mind stream. But again, it isn't some inherently existent seed that is there, nailed down into my mind stream. No. It's a potency. It's a potency that can produce a result, but not by itself. It has to meet with other conditions. Okay. Okay, so then the sutra talks about inner dependent arising, which is talking about, consciousness migrating, how people are reborn in samsara. That's interdependent arising. That is to be seen in terms of 5 aspects. Okay, not permanent, not discontinuous, not involving transmigration, the production of a large result from a small cause, and the continuity of a similar type. Okay, so the sutra now goes into talking about those 5, which describe interdependent arising. So it says, the sutra continues, how is it not permanent? Okay, not permanent means impermanent, means changing moment by moment due to causes and conditions. So it is not permanent because the final aggregates at death are one thing, and those at birth are another. That is, the final aggregates at death are not the ones at birth. And yet, only when the final aggregates at death cease do the aggregates at birth arise. Okay, so the aggregates of one life, aggregates, physical aggregate, our body, the 4 mental aggregates, okay, feelings, discriminations, miscellaneous ones, and consciousness. Those 4 are the mental aggregates. We just decided to translate the 4th one as miscellaneous ones because they're a hodgepodge of everything that doesn't fit into the other 3 mental aggregates. Okay, so so the aggregates in one life are not the same as the aggregates in the next life. So it's very clear when we talk about our body. The body of one life dies. And then in the case of when we're born with a body, then the body of the next life arises. They are not the same body. They're not the same body. Actually, do you have the same body that you did when you were born? What are you talking about? You didn't change bodies, did you? Do you have the same body when you were born? No, why not? Well, when you were born, your body started out like what, this big? Well, before you were born, it started out this big. It grew when you got born, it was bigger. It's changing. You grew into being an adult. It's not the same body as when you were born. It's a continuum of that body, isn't it? But it's not the same. And in fact, they say that all your cells have changed. I don't know how long it takes. Or when we say the cells change, it doesn't mean gross impermanence. It also means subtle impermanence. The cells are changing moment by moment. Some cells actually slough off, like our skin cells. They're dead. We get whole new cells. But other ones, it's still changing moment by moment. Okay, so the body that we're born into in the next life is not the same body as we were born in the previous life. And there, it's not even a continuation. When we talk about the gross body that we have, it's not even a continuation of the previous life. Because your previous life body maybe got cremated. Okay, or it got buried and the worms had a good lunch. So there's some gross impermanence. But the potency for the body, when you get into Tantra, it talks more about that. The extremely subtle wind, there's a continuum there, but it's not exactly the same. So the body's not the same. And we see here too, the mental aggregates are not the same as in the previous life. Okay, so we have cats here at the Abbey, our precious kitties. So right now they have a kitty body, and they have kitty mental aggregates. We are praying that they will be born as human beings and come back to the Abbey and practice. But their body's not going to be the same, And if they are born in a human body, are they going to have a cat consciousness? Yeah. So even the four mental aggregates are not going to be the same in the next life. You know, if they're born as humans, they will have the four mental aggregates of a human being. Okay, I got my adjectives right. Okay, so, yeah. So again, not the same, but cause influences the result. Yeah. And here we get into a discussion, you know, of the specific persons and the general person, okay, which is quite interesting. So the specific person is talking about the person of one particular lifetime, okay? The general person is talking about the continuum from one life to the next. But here, you know, remember, there's nothing inherently existent, so we have to see on what is, or independence on what is the specific person imputed. Independence on what is the general person imputed. Okay? The specific person of each time is imputed or designated independence on the aggregates of that particular life. Okay? So who you are this lifetime, yeah, is imputed independence on the body and the human mental aggregates that you have this lifetime. Okay? So, but the general person is imputed independence on all the specific persons. So their bases of designation is different. And they're different. Okay? So, yeah, so this lifetime I'm called Chodron. Okay? So when I die, Chodron ceases. Yeah? If I'm born in a next life, I don't know what my name will be, you know, Hey You. I'm born as Hey You in my next life. Then, okay, then there's the aggregates of Hey You. So Chodron and Hey You, I hope, well, Hey You. Yeah, it'd be nicer to have a better name. I can change my name, you know. What do you, anyway, we'll go with Hey You for the time being. Okay, so, yeah, Chodron and Hey You are different people. They're imputed independence on different aggregates. Okay, so those are the two specific people. So when the Buddha said that there's nothing that transmigrates from here to here, you have different people. But they are not inherently different. Yeah, because Hey You arose independence upon Chodron. Okay, so when we say, oh, somebody was reborn, we're not talking about the specific person being reborn, because that person ceased and another one is born. But we're talking about the general person that is imputed independence on all the specific people. Okay? And so that's why the Buddha in many of the sutras, and especially in the Jataka tales, yeah, he will say, oh, in that lifetime, I was so-and-so. Okay? But does that mean that the Buddha, you know, was so-and-so in that previous life? No. Yeah, because the Buddha, you know, he wasn't the Buddha at that time, you know, he was a bodhisattva. They're different people, yeah? But there was the continuum of the general I. So the Buddha can talk about the past, yeah, can talk about the future, but again, it's not some independently existent person. Okay. So, so that's that first characteristic. Yeah, that it's not permanent. Let's see. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so then the second characteristics, yeah, when the Buddha said it's not the same, no transmigrates. He said, how is it not discontinuous? Don't you love that double negative? So it means it is continuous, okay? So it is not discontinuous because the aggregates at birth do not arise from the final aggregates at death, either when they have already ceased or when they have not yet ceased. Like the beam of a scale tilting from up to down, the aggregates at birth arise precisely when the final aggregates at death have ceased. Okay, so yeah, there's not something here that picks up and moves here. So they use the example of a balance. Yeah. So we have to understand, with all the analogies, by the way, you have to understand what an analogy is getting at. And the aspects of one analogy, all the qualities of it, don't necessarily apply to the conclusion. You know, see, it's an analogy because you're taking one characteristic that is showing you the meaning of another. It doesn't mean all of them do. Okay, so if we have two ends of a balance, yeah, they exist simultaneously. Yeah. So let's say this end of the balance is one life, yeah, and it is in the process of ceasing, and the next life is in the process of arising. Okay? Yeah, because one thing has to cease for the other to arise, right? Yeah, does the cause exist at the time of the result? Some of you are thinking about, does the cause exist at the time of the result? Okay, your body was caused by a sperm and egg coming together. Yeah, does that sperm and egg exist right now? No, it doesn't exist, does it? Okay, when the seed becomes a sprout, the seed has to cease for the sprout to arise. Okay, so it doesn't mean that the seed and the sprout are existing at the same time. And as the seed is going out of existence, the sprout is coming into existence, because cause and effect cannot exist at the same time. Yeah, if they existed at the same time, how could the cause produce the effect? It would be impossible, okay? So what exists at the same time, yeah, is the seed, yeah, that's why we call it the rice seedling sutra, yeah, the seed is in the process of ceasing, okay? So in the process of ceasing means the seed is changing moment by moment by moment, ceasing, yeah? Meanwhile, at the same time that the seed is ceasing, the result, the seedling, or the sprout, yeah, the sprout is in the process of arising. Does the sprout exist at that moment? How can we say the seed is in the process of ceasing and the sprout at the same time is in the process of arising? Does that mean that they both exist at the same time? If it did, then you have cause and effect existing at the same time, and they don't. Okay, what exists at the same time? Okay, the present seed is in the process of ceasing. The future seed, and the future seed is imputed a future sprout, sorry. The future sprout is not designated on a sprout that's already there that's going to pop up in the future. Okay? That the future sprout is designated on independence on all the causes for the seed, for the sprout, but all the conditions have not yet come together, or the conditions are in the process of coming together. They have not yet come together for the sprout to appear. Okay, so the present seed is ceasing. At the same time, the future sprout is arising. Yeah, so it's like one part of the balance going down and simultaneously the other one coming up. Okay, then you use the analogy. Now the two sides are the same. Does that mean that the seed jumps over here and now it's the sprout? No. Okay. When the seed ceases, the sprout in the next moment arises. Okay? The sprout does not come into existence at the last moment of the seed, because then they would exist at the same time. So the moment one ceases, the other one arises. Now, can you find the moment, the exact moment where the seed ceased and the sprout arose? Can you find that? No. Even you say it's between this nanosecond and that nanosecond. During that one nanosecond, that's when one ceases and the other one arises. You can't even say that, because that nanosecond has a beginning, it has a middle, it has an end. Which part of the nanosecond did one cease and the other one arise? If you're looking for one particular moment, you can't find it, can you? One ceases, the next one arises. Yeah. This is really, when you really think about this deeply, it's quite amazing. It's very much against our usual way of seeing the world. Yeah. Where we think things are kind of permanent. Yeah. I mean, we look around, we see all these people in the room in front of us. Yeah. We expect them all to be here tomorrow. Yeah. Exactly the same. Well, let's even not go until tomorrow. Are you the same person that you were at the beginning of this talk? No, you're different, aren't you? Your body's different, mind is different. Okay, but there's a continuum. Okay, so when it says it's not discontinuous, that was the second quality. That's what it means. Okay, nothing goes from here to here, but it's not like this is forever ceased and has no result, and then this one comes up without any cause. Yeah, anything that functions, has to arise due to causes. It cannot come without a cause. Yeah. But it's funny, in our lives, in some ways in our lives, we believe in cause and effect. You know, you have to get a good education to get a good job. You have to get a good job to earn money. You have to earn money to support your family, you know? So there's a series of causes and conditions, yeah? And that's how we live our life and how we make decisions, okay? But at the same time, sometimes we go, you know, when somebody dies in an accident, we go, wait a minute, how did that happen? Yeah, the person was here yesterday. Now there's a corpse and the person's gone. Yeah, why do we say the person's gone? Because the consciousness and the body, which have their own continuums, have now gone different ways. The consciousness is separated from the body. Okay? But we're so surprised. How could that person have died? Even if it's somebody in hospice, you don't expect them to die that day. And the time will come for each of us, you know, when we will die and we'll go, wait a minute, that wasn't in my schedule for today. You know, I may have been ill for many years, but today's not the day. Yeah. So you see that we may have an intellectual awareness of impermanence, but so often the way we live our life, we are shocked by even, this is gross impermanence. Somebody dying is gross impermanence. You know, it's like, wait, how did that happen? I was in Kathmandu one time, walking down a street, and the building in front of me just collapsed. And it's like, wait a minute, that was, what? What? You know, it was there 1 minute, and now there's a bunch of rubble. Yeah? As if the building that was there before was fixed, not changing moment by moment, having its own essence, and then poof. How did that happen? As if it happened without any cause. Yeah. If I think it happened causelessly, that shows my ignorance, doesn't it? Yeah, because things don't happen without causes. Yeah. Okay. So, not permanent, not discontinuous. There's a continuum. The third quality does not involve transmigration. Okay? So how do we show that going from one life to the next, does not involve transmigration? So here, transmigration is assuming an inherently existent person picks up and goes to the next life. Okay? And the way to disprove that is because beings from different classes of existence bring about their rebirth in a common form of birth. Okay, so let's say our cats and we're going to have a good scenario here. So the cats are going to die and be reborn as human beings. And let's say when we die, we're born as human beings. Yeah. Then we meet here at the Abbey. Seems perfectly normal. Yeah. But there was no transmigration of some independently existent person, because from here, from the cat became a human. Even from the human in being reborn as the human, different specific people. Yeah, children in this life, hey, you in the next life. Okay, so does not involve transmigration of some kind of soul. Okay, next thing, it does not entail the production of a large result. No, it does, It does entail the production of a large result from a small cause. So how is that? The Sūtra says, the ripening of a large result is experienced from having performed a minor action. Thus, it entails the production of a large result from a small cause. Okay, so back to your garden. You plant the seed, pretty small, you get a whole plant. Yeah. When you look out the window from the Abbey, we have some really enormous trees in the forest around us. All those trees were born, the principal cause was one little seed. Yeah, from something small, something big can arise. Was that tree already in the small seed? Yeah. There are some non-Buddhists that say, yes, the seed, the tree is in the seed. It just hasn't manifested yet. Yeah. If that were the case, then you should be able to cut the seed open and find the seed. Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? You cut the seed open, it's not going to grow into anything. Yeah, you ruin the seed. Okay, but a large result can come from a small cause. So when we talk about karma, yeah, we can do small actions that can produce big results. Yeah. So, and this works for both negative actions, producing big unhappy results, and virtuous actions, producing large virtuous results. Okay, something small can bring something big. I always figured that I must have been, in a previous life, a flea in my teacher's Shemdap. And, and then he said some mantra and blew on me, and, as the flea, and of course I hopped away after biting a few times. But that was the condition for some previously created virtuous karma that I had created 50 million eons ago, to ripen and have the rebirth that I have now. Okay? Something small can bring something big. Yeah? And, when you think about causes and conditions, you really see, we usually think of the principal cause. That's, we make that something solid. Yeah, I planted this seed, it's going to look like this when it, is fully ripened. Actually, all of you who garden, that it's not just the seed that gives rise to your flowers. Yeah, you need earth, you need water, you need fertilizer, you need the right temperature. Those are the cooperative conditions. Yeah. We could have the water, the fertilizer, the seed in the garden, but at winter around here, yeah, not going to grow. We could have the seed in the ground in summer, but if it's a drought, no water, it's not going to grow. Okay? So the conditions really influence how the seed ripens. But in terms of karma, virtue always produces happiness. Non-virtue always produces suffering. Okay? Now, those of us, yeah, who, have grasping an inherent existence, we say, well, who made up that rule? Why does that cause produce that result? Yeah, well, the Buddha just said that it was a natural occurrence that existed, whether the Tathagata, whether the Buddha was there and taught it and saw it or not. Okay, so it's not something in the seed that becomes the result. It's causes, conditions, and how they relate together, how they mix together. Yeah, baking is a really good example for those of you who like baking. Okay, if you set out all the ingredients, yeah, on the table, you have flour and baking soda and butter and eggs and spices and a little bit of salt, and it's all laid out there. Okay, so if you just took all those things and piled them one on top of the other, are you going to have a cake? No, you wouldn't sit down and, eat that cake with one spoonful of flour at a time and another spoonful of butter. Okay? You have to mix them together. So how those ingredients are arranged is very important. Yeah? But not just arranged. You have to bake them. Yeah? You have to put them in the oven, and they affect one another. Yeah, when you mix those ingredients together, they affect one another. Yeah, because of the eggs, the cake is going to rise. Or because of the baking soda or baking powder, the cake will arise. One ingredient affects the other ingredient when they are heated, and you get the cake. Okay? But you have many small things put together in a certain order with certain conditions of an oven that functions. You might have the oven, but if you forget to turn it on, or you turn it on and it doesn't work, you're going to have raw batter. You're not going to have a cake. Okay? So that was the one of the production of a large result from a small cause. Okay. And then the next one is it involves a continuity of similar type, because the ripening of an action, the ripening of a karma, is experienced precisely according to the action performed. Okay? So a virtuous cause produces a happy result. Yeah. The Buddha did not make this up. Yeah. When the Buddha talked about the 10 non-virtuous activities to abandon, and then the myriad of virtuous activities to create, yeah, he did not invent this. Okay. In theistic religions, there's a creator, and the creator made up the rules. Yeah? Creator created everything. He made up the rules. Yeah? And said, if you do this, you're going to get punished. Yeah? In Buddhism, there's no creator, nobody made up the rules, and nobody is inflicting rewards and punishment. Okay? Rather, the Buddha, when he saw sentient beings experiencing happiness, then he researched what are through his omniscient mind, he could see what were the causes the principal causes that created that result. And then those causes he imputed virtuous. When sentient beings were experiencing suffering, he saw the various actions that produce misery. He designated those as non-virtuous. So even when we talk about virtue and non-virtue, they are not inherently existent. They are designated in dependence on the results that they bring. If an action brings happiness, it's called virtuous. If an action brings unhappiness, it's called non-virtuous. Buddha did not create this. It's just the way things function. If you plant daisies, you get daisies. Okay? You don't get cedar trees when you plant daisies. Yeah? When you plant cedar seeds, when the pine cone opens and the seeds fall, then From cedar seeds, you get cedar trees. Yeah, you don't get daisies. Yeah. So there's a continuity, it says, of a similar type in the sense that virtue produces happiness. Happiness is produced by virtue. Okay? Non-virtue produces misery. Yeah, suffering is produced by non-virtue. Yeah, they are designated in relationship to each other. Yeah. So here is another interesting aspect of dependent arising. It isn't just that the cause produces the result. And it isn't just that it's imputed as cause because it produces a result. Yeah, this isn't imputed as a rice seed, because there's an inherently existent rice plant. Yeah. It's imputed in relationship to the result it brings. Yeah, so it's in cause because it produces a result. Okay? But when we're talking about designation and imputation, the result is imputed in dependence on there being a cause. So the cause and result are dependent on each other. This is a daisy flower because it's produced from a daisy seed. This is a daisy seed because it produces a daisy flower. Yeah? So they're designated cause and effect because of that relationship, not because first there's a daisy flower, with absolutely no possibility of a daisy. I'm getting my causes and effects mixed up. It's not that first there's a daisy seed, and that this little thing here is going to produce a daisy flower all by itself. It's called a daisy seed because it has the potency to produce the daisy flower. Okay. It's called a daisy flower because it came from the seed of a daisy. Cause and effect are mutually imputed, mutually designated. Okay. This, when you really start thinking about designation and how things are mutually imputed on each other in relationship to each other, it really is kind of mind-boggling. Okay. One of the examples that I think about is because everybody is so concerned with the economy, right? If interest rates go up, this happens. If they go down, this happens. If there's inflation, this happens. If there's not inflation, that happens. And we feel, in relation to our whole economic system and the whole thing of having currency, we feel like there's this very permanent structure that somehow, we have to squeeze ourselves into. You have to have a certain education to get a certain job, to make a certain amount of money, and there's this structure and you just have to squeeze yourself into it. If you step back, this whole economic system is something invented by human beings. Think about that for a minute. It's not like there first existed some economic system and then we have to squeeze ourselves into it. At the beginning, what do you mean at the beginning? There was no beginning. But in, previous times, nobody talked about, the Neanderthals shared things, I'm sure, but they didn't talk about interest rates. They didn't talk about repaying exactly the same thing. You know, you didn't have to sign a contract if your fellow Neanderthal gave you an apple, you know, that yeah, you're going to repay the apple, and if I don't, you know, and I have to give not just one apple back, I have to give two because I have to reciprocate, you know, pay for the fact that he loaned me that apple. You know, that whole thing, human beings invented. Isn't that amazing? And how much we feel trapped by it. Yeah. So when you really think so many things in this world, yeah, we created, and then, as my teacher says, we forget that we were the one that designated them and gave them that function and made them be that way. We forget that we were the ones who imputed and designated, and then we see them as out there objectively existing, independent of our mind. And things don't exist independent of our mind. They exist independence on being designated, on, you know, independence on designation on the basis of designation. Okay? Okay. So, I'll go quickly now. Okay, so there's so much to talk about. Like I told you, we could do several years on this sutra. Okay, so the sutra again says now, what is the Dharma? The Dharma is the eightfold path of the noble ones, you know, and then I listed them out: right view, intention, speech, action, livelihood, effort, mindfulness, and concentration. Okay, combined with their attainments, the results, and nirvana. Okay, so that is what the Buddha has called, i.e., designated as the Dharma. Yeah. So then it goes into a whole description of the eightfold path, which I thought, where were we? Yeah, I think that the file in my computer will naturally go to the next page. Actually, it goes backwards, and then I have to scroll through to find out where I was. Okay? The eightfold path. So here, you know, we usually think of that in terms of the Pali tradition. The Buddha described it, you know, in the Pali Suttas. Yeah, Maitreya, in his text, The Differentiation of the Middle and the Extremes, Uttanamche, says, one that thoroughly realizes, one that makes you understand, the three factors that make others develop trust. As antidotes to those on the opposite side, these are the 8 factors of the path. Huh? One that thoroughly realizes, what's he talking about? Okay, it's very important to realize, to understand, you know, that when we read verses from written by many of the Indian sages, they are very terse. Yeah, many of them are just lists. Yeah, or they express something, but in a very few words. Yeah, and they did that assuming that somebody or many people would write commentaries and unpack them. Yeah, so if you sit down and read many of the ancient texts, yeah, like that verse, if you read that, would you know what the Eightfold Path is? No, you need an explanation. Yeah. So these verses were written in that way. Okay, so the first line, one that thoroughly realizes, refers to the right view. Okay, and what is the right view? It realizes in post-meditation time the correct understanding of the Four Truths that was realized in meditative equipoise. So in meditative equipoise, that's when you have your first correct understanding of the Four Truths. What are you understanding in that meditative equipoise? That all Four Truths are empty of inherent existence. Okay? When you come out of that meditative equipoise, then your gross, another consciousness starts functioning, because in that meditative equipoise, there's no conceptual mind. It's just the direct perception of emptiness. There's no appearance of conventional phenomena. When you come out, then, you're living your life and all these things around you appear. And it's at that time that somebody says, oh, now I've realized emptiness. So when you're in meditative equipoise, there's no thought, oh, now I'm realizing emptiness. Hey, this is fantastic. Now I got it. There's no thought like that at that time. It's only when you come out, okay? So it realizes in post-meditative time the correct understanding of the Four Truths, that and the correct understanding that they're empty, that was realized in meditative equipoise. Okay? Then the second line of Maitreya's verse, one that makes you understand, that's talking about the second of the Noble Eightfold Path, the right intention. So that's the intention that wishes to correctly explain to others the view of selflessness that we have realized in meditation. So you don't just realize emptiness, you want to express it, you want to teach others that view. So that implies to have the right intention from a Mahayana viewpoint. It implies that you have generated bodhicitta. You have great compassion, which is, one of the causes of bodhicitta, and now dependent on your aspiration to attain full awakening, so that you can effectively benefit sentient beings and lead them to liberation themselves. You have to explain the teachings. So that is the right intention, the second of the Eightfold Noble Path. Okay, then the three factors that make others develop trust. Okay, trust is very important, isn't it? What are those three factors? Right speech, right action, right livelihood. Okay, right speech, we tell the truth, we speak at appropriate times, in appropriate ways. We don't use our speech to cause discord among people. We don't insult people. We don't talk frivolously. Okay? So when we have that kind of speech, people can trust what we say. We have a political situation in the States right now, where it becomes very difficult for many people to trust the speech of one of the candidates because they are so often inaccurate, downright untrue lies. So we encourage trust, and if you want to benefit sentient beings, they have to trust you. If they don't trust you, you can't benefit them. Okay, so right speech does that. Right action creates trust too, because we don't kill or physically harm others. We don't rip off and steal their possessions, depriving them of what they need to stay alive. We don't misuse sexuality, sleeping around, or having unsafe sexual relationships, spreading disease or hurting people's feelings by using them like an object. Okay? So correct action, we don't do the non-virtuous ones, we do the opposite. That creates trust. And right livelihood. So for lay people, that would be, having a job, getting paid for what you did. So if you have a job where you have to clock in, or not where you have to clock in, you have to write what your time you arrived and time that, there's a tendency to cheat. I arrived 15 minutes earlier. That's what I write down, that I actually arrived. And I stayed 15 minutes later, but actually I left 15 minutes earlier. So that way I get paid in for an extra half an hour, That's wrong livelihood, okay? Wrong livelihood, making munitions, making poisons, this kind of thing that destroys life, that, oh my goodness, if companies didn't make all the armaments, where would the wars be? So, right livelihood, that's for the lay people. For monastics, right livelihood is also important, because we need the 4 requisites: food, shelter, clothing, medicine. So we obtain those not by dropping hints to other people. Oh, that nice warm winter jacket you gave me last year was so wonderful. Oh, that's actually flattery. You were so kind to give me that winter jacket. Thank you so much. So I flatter somebody so that and that's also hinting. That one is both. I flatter them, and then I drop a hint implying, I could use another brand new, really super warm, better than everybody else's winter jacket. That's, for monastic, that's wrong livelihood. Hinting about what you need. It's, there's so many ways to hint. So many ways, and you have to be so careful. Anyway, I won't get into that, okay? But, so, and then avoid another wrong livelihood for monastics is you give somebody a small gift, implying, you're fudging. You're what is it called? You're brown-nosing. You give somebody a small gift so that they'll give you a bigger one. Okay? It's very easy to do that too, isn't it? Like I give you this nice little, I give you a sweet, and so you should give me, that winter jacket. Okay. So that could be called bribery, but we don't think of it as bribery, But if our mind could be like that, I give you something small, so you give me something big. Another wrong livelihood for monastics is coercion. I put you in a situation where you can't not do it. Like, okay, we're raising money for the Buddha Hall. So-and-so gave $250. So-and-so gave $500. We have a person over here who gave $1,000. And now you said that you would donate. How much are you going to give? Well, you can't give less than the person who gave $250, and you want to give more than the person who gave $1,000. So you're putting somebody in a position where they can't not do it. Coercion. Okay? And then the 5th wrong livelihood for monastics is hypocrisy. And this one is like, we don't like hypocrites, do we? People who say one thing and act another way. But again, it's so easy to do. And the famous story that the Tibetans tell is there was a meditator in the mountains, and he knew his benefactors were coming. So when he set up the offerings on his altar that morning, he made beautiful offerings. Yeah, he had just beautiful offerings. He picked flowers and put them around. He took out the best Buddha statues. He made the altar really clean. Usually it wasn't like that. He would just put one small thing there and that was it. But now he made this beautiful altar so that when his benefactor came, his benefactor would think of, wow, look, what a great practitioner. And of course, when his benefactor came, he wasn't just pacing back and forth. When's my benefactor coming? Is he coming yet? Is he coming? Well, he was pacing, looking at, oh, the benefactor's coming. So then he sits on his meditation session. So when the benefactor knocks on the door, what's he doing? Oh, I was in deep meditation. Yeah, and the benefactor is going to be very impressed. Yeah, look, this beautiful altar. He's meditating when I arrive. This is a true practitioner. I will create so much merit. I won't just give him one winter jacket. I'll give him boots too, and I'll give a sleeping bag, and how about some inside heating in his cave. So it's hypocrisy. So in the story, this meditator, so-called meditator, who was trying to look good for his benefactor, when he realized what he was doing, he picked up dirt and threw it all over the altar so that his benefactor would see a messy altar. Because for him, he realized when he was doing that, insincere, to impress somebody, that is not Dharma practice. Yeah, you can pull the wool over somebody's eyes, but that doesn't make it virtuous. Yeah. So for monastics, those three. Yeah, right speech, right action, right livelihood. When we keep them, it encourages trust. Yeah, and if you want to benefit sentient beings by teaching them the right view of the Four Truths, then you need trust. Okay, then what do you need? The next one. Okay, so those were the three factors that make others develop trust. Okay, then the next line said antidotes to those on the opposite side. Okay, so the opposite side, refers to all the defilements that you have to overcome. Yeah, so we need right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Yeah, so right effort is making the effort to develop the antidotes that eliminate the objects to be abandoned on the path of meditation. Okay, so what's the antidote on the path of meditation? It's the direct realization of emptiness. Yeah, that's the ultimate antidote. As you know, I don't know about people listening, but for me, I don't have no realization of emptiness. So when I'm angry, meditating on emptiness doesn't do anything. Yeah, for me, because I don't have that realization. But, if I look at the situation in another way, and I think, that the person who just insulted me is unhappy at that moment, then I can see an unhappy person, not somebody who wants to harm me. I see an unhappy person, and when there's unhappy people, how do you feel? Compassion. I wish they were free of their suffering. I wish they had happiness. Okay, so, you depend on the antidotes that are easier to understand, that enables you to keep good speech, good actions, good conduct, good livelihood. And then slowly you develop the realization of emptiness. Okay? So those are what we're talking about, the antidotes. So right effort makes the effort to develop those. Right mindfulness does not forget the object of meditation, and thus it prevents and eliminates hindrances to single-pointedness, okay, such as the five hindrances that are described in the Pali tradition, and then the 5 faults that Maitreya described in one of his treatises. And then right concentration, the last of the eightfold, is the antidote to the obscuration to mental absorption, which is the unserviceability of the mind that hinders the development of concentration. Okay, so there's, when you're getting close to generating shamatha, the mind can still be unserviceable. You can't make it do exactly what you want it to do. So this right concentration is the antidote to that. Okay, and so those put together, then we get to the last line in Maitreya's verse. These are the 8 factors of the path. So with that, I've gone 15 minutes over time, and I was supposed to leave time for Q&A, which I didn't do. And I didn't finish everything that I had planned to say. We have to live with that. Okay, so, anything I said that was erroneous, don't remember. Yeah, anything that is useful, it didn't come from me, it came from the Buddha and the great sages who unpacked this sutra. Okay. So.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Venerable, for your wonderful teachings. Should we still do a few questions? How are you on time?
Okay, a few minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
We just have 2 questions from the online audience.
Okay.
And maybe I will just ask you those 2 questions, and then we can end with that, if that's all right.
You do one question at a time, please.
Sure, of course.
Okay.
All right. So the very first question is from someone named Tracy Newman, and they ask, this is a question asking for clarification on the idea of no self. So Tracy Newman asks, if there is no self, how can young children remember a previous life? There are a number of documented cases where a child recalls events from a previous life, and that they have been verified as being correct. So that's
right. Okay, that's getting back to what I described in the talk when the sutra says there's no transmigration. Okay, so there's no permanent, inherently existent self. There's no soul in this one that then goes into this body, and that is what gives the child the ability to remember previous lives. There's the continuum that exists, and on that continuum you have the seeds of the events that happened in the previous life, and then when the child is in this life, if those seeds ripen, they have those memories. It's just like, you remember your childhood, some things from your childhood now, but you're not the same person as that little kid. And I think this is something actually very important to realize, that can help us in a psychological way, is, if you were, abused as a child, to remember that who you are now is not the exact same person as that child. If you committed a crime or did something really terrible, you are not the exact same person that did that. Okay. That doesn't mean that I can create negativity and not experience a result, because there is the continuum of ever-changing moments, that doesn't cease, but there's no person in there. Okay?
Thank you. And then one final question. This is from Isabel Chouinard, I think. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing this name. They ask, while explaining, you were explaining about the seed dying and the sprout coming to life. And their question is, where does POA practice fall within all of this?
Okay, so POA practice, I'm assuming here the person is, there's different kinds of POA, but in terms of projecting the mind from one lifetime into, let's say, the pure realm or something like that. Yeah, so again, that's just the idea of there being a mental continuum, you know, of ever-changing moments. Yeah, and through the cause of POA, which is something you train in while you're alive, and while you're training in projecting the consciousness, you also have to do a long life practice. Yeah, otherwise you could run into trouble. Okay, so so just because there's the continuum, yeah, but again, it's not the same person in the next life. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Venerable Thubten Chodron. Thank you for taking time on this auspicious day to share your wisdom with us. May we all endeavor to supplicate the sources as you have taught us today. Thank you to you. Thank you to everybody who is on Zoom and in person for joining us today. Please stay tuned for future 84,000 events that we will be organizing for the remaining 210 days and other auspicious days. Please sign up for the newsletter if you're interested in staying up to date. And also a final note, there is a special new feature that is now available on the 84,000 website that's backed by popular demand. Now, when you make a donation on 84,000 in honor of someone else, they will receive a personalized email with an image informing them of your generous gift. So that's just a final note about a new feature. And thank you once again. Thank you all for joining us, and we hope to see you next time. Thank you so much, Venerable.
Okay, sure. I would like to add to the thank yous that we have to thank the Buddha. Yeah, let's not forget the Buddha and all the lineage of practitioners that come down to the present day and to our present teachers, because without them, where would we be? Okay. We'll do our usual dedication. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. Okay.